Jim, thanks for joining us on DUTV. We're just approaching the last couple of days of the pre-season camp here in Holland. How beneficial an exercise do you feel it's been for the group overall?
It's been a great trip so far, yeah. You know, a really important time in the season for us to bring the boys away where we can spend some real quality time together, not just on the training pitch, but you know, obviously for the players to spend a bit more time together when you've got so many new faces coming into the squad. An opportunity like this to go abroad and you know, for the players to be mingling all the time throughout the day, you know, it's a good chance for them all to get to know each other, really. When you think back to your days as a player, how much did you enjoy these trips? Yeah, I mean, the trips were always great. You know, you work really hard, you know, doing the sessions and on the pitch. I mean, the players, it was an early start for us last Monday. Flew over early in the morning. The boys got a bit of lunch, and then we were out on the training pitch in the afternoon. Since then, it's been, you know, double and triple sessions for the players. Lots of fitness work, as you'd imagine, at this time of the season, but also a really good opportunity for me to get the message across to the players in terms of how we want to play. You know, we've been working on lots of different areas in terms of attacking patterns of play, but also working on the defensive shape as well. We're in a really good complex here in Doorwerth as well. You know, we've got fantastic couple of pitches. We've got a room in there for the players to go and socialise in, where they've got table tennis and darts, and PlayStation is set up and all of those things. So it's great to see, you know, the majority of the squad all hanging out together, you know, and just having a good time, really. So it's beneficial on lots of different grounds. Yeah, can you see the guys starting to form friendships and bonds with each other at this early stage of the summer? Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, when we're at home, you know, training at St Andrews, obviously the players get to see each other in the morning and for the time that we're together at the training ground. But you know, then when they go home, they're living in different areas. You know, some near the training ground, some in the city in Dundee, and they probably don't get you know, as much opportunities to socialise with each other. So on a trip like this, with, you know, the great setup that we have here at the Fletcher Hotel in Doorwerth, it's you know, it's given us a great opportunity for those guys, just as I said, to get to know each other. You know, we've had so many new faces come into the group, and obviously, you know, they're all paired up, sharing in rooms, and yeah, I just think it just creates a really good bond throughout the group. And you know, that team spirit and that togetherness is so important for any successful team, and we certainly had it last year, and it's really important that we build on that again this season. Yeah, if we just quickly reflect on last season, now that the dust has settled, an unqualified success, securing 4th place in European football, it felt like the culmination of a lot of hard work from people on the pitch and behind the scenes throughout the past couple of years. Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been a real collective effort. There's no doubt about that. You know, obviously the disappointment of getting relegated 3 seasons ago, everybody feeling a bit low. But you know, we believed that we, you know, had put a really good strategy in place in order for us to go and win the championship. You know, to build a squad of players not only good enough to go and compete in the championship, but those players then to be able to make the step up into the Premiership. And I think you saw that with a lot of the group last season. The likes of, you know, Declan Gallagher and Ross Docherty and Louis Moult, you know, Glenn Middleton, you know, all these guys, Jack Walton, you know, they all played a real significant role in helping us to get back to where we are today. Now, you know, as with any football club, you know, people's times don't last forever, and you've got to always try and look ahead and plan for the future, and that's what we've been doing over the last couple of seasons. So, you know, it's never easy letting go, you know, players that have been good servants, but we have to believe in our process, and we have to believe in what we're doing. And I think the strategy up to now has been really, really beneficial. I'm delighted with the recruitment that we've done at this time. I think we've probably been one of the busiest clubs in the Premiership up to now in terms of the amount of signings that we've done. And of course, you know, I'm really pleased with, you know, how those players have settled in, and the qualities that we saw while we were doing the scouting has certainly shone through in the last couple of weeks watching them live in training. So, you know, we're nowhere near done yet. We know that we've still got a bit of work to do in certain areas of the squad, but that work is relentless. You know, we won't be happy until we get all the positions filled that are a priority for us right now. And you know, it's as I said, the business we've done up to now has been really, really good.
Does it make it a wee bit easier getting into some of those difficult conversations with influential players when you know you've got a contingency plan from the top down to replace them?
Well, I mean, look, I think you've got to always be, you know, looking to the future and looking at how the squad is balanced out. You know, we always wanted to try and reduce the average age of the squad. You know, we've done that, I think, with the signings that we've made up to now. You know, the players that we left go were all good players, you know, and I'm delighted to see them all getting fixed up as well with new contracts at new clubs, and you know, we wish them every success. But you know, we have to trust in what our strategy is. You know, sometimes we have to be a little bit patient. You don't always, you know, manage to get every signing done in the first 2 or 3 weeks of the window opening, but we've certainly made great strides in a short period of time. And the targets that we've identified, you know, still to come in key positions, we believe are really good ones and, you know, worth waiting for.
You need a wee bit more patience as well when there's a few clubs after a top level player, because essentially he's still got to make his mind up, and you're just hoping that he chooses Dundee United if you put the right offer in front of him and put the right project in front of him from a managerial perspective.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, I think when we were in the Championship, trying to sell the club to certain players was a difficult task. But now, you know, we're 2 years further forward. We've, you know, finished 4th in the Premiership. We've got Europa Conference qualifiers to look forward to. You know, instead of us chasing agents now, we've got, you know, a number of agents actually chasing us because they want to get their clients fixed up at Dundee United. So we're in a really strong position, I think, when it comes to the negotiations of these contracts. But you know, I'd be disappointed if the targets that we've identified didn't have other good options as well. You know, that's a positive for me. That, you know, tells me that we have identified good players, and then it's just about, you know, the player taking his time along with his representatives to see what all the options are and weigh up what they think is best for their next step. And you know, as I said, we've got a number of irons in the fire at the moment, and we'd be very confident that we would have some, you know, positive news going into the early part of next week on 1 or 2, hopefully.
You touched on it there, but just under 2 weeks until we get some European action under our belt. Can you feel that sense of excitement starting to build amongst the group now?
Without a doubt, yeah. I mean, you know, the players are all desperate to get started now. Fitness-wise, they look fantastic. You know, I don't remember in the 10 years of being a manager, I don't remember working with a group of players so physically fit so early on. And again, you know, getting back to that strategy word, that is something that we've discussed time and again, myself and Ross, our head of recruitment. You know, there was a big emphasis on trying to reduce the age of the team, but also to, you know, bring better athleticism to the squad, better mobility, better pace. All of these things really important to, you know, be able to handle the demands that the Scottish Premiership puts on you. And, you know, not just the Premier League, it's, you know, we want to go far in the European stage. We want to be challenging for all of the domestic cup competitions as well. So if we do what we hope to do this season, then we're going to have a hell of a lot of fixtures to contend with. And in order to come through those fixtures, you need to have a really strong competitive squad. We were a little bit light in some areas last season, and I think, you know, we've learned from that, and I think that's the most important thing. You know, every year is learning from different situations to try and make sure that those same things don't happen again, and I think we've put ourselves in a really strong position at this time.
Yeah, looking to the season ahead, I guess the $1 million question after such a good campaign last year is, how do you improve on it? Well,
I think to try and improve on the league position at the end of the season, it's obviously going to be very difficult, but we have to believe we're capable of doing that. You know, I think last season, being the newly promoted team, I think we were able to play our ambitions down a little bit at the early part of the season. You know, this season, I think we're going to assemble a squad that I believe will be strong enough and more than capable of competing for those top 6 places. And I think that's got to be the aim from the beginning this season. We know how difficult the campaign's going to be because, you look at some of the teams that are in there in terms of, St Mirren have got a really settled squad with a great manager in Stephen Robinson. Derek McInnes, obviously, going in at Hearts, a really experienced manager, has had great success in the league before. They've got real investment at Tynecastle as well, and you can see that with some of the signings that he's made, and I know he'll be delighted that, Shankland has signed back on as well. Hibs are having a go again, Aberdeen, the investment up there as well. So we know that it's going to be really difficult, to go and compete with these teams, but we've done it last year, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't go and do it again this year. And I know I've mentioned those teams. We're not underestimating some of the other teams in the league as well. Motherwell have got a new foreign coach. It'll be interesting to see how they play, the types of signings that they make. And then you've got some new teams coming into the league in Livingston and Falkirk. And we know only too well, how difficult it is to play against both of those two teams, having played against Falkirk, quite regularly in the last couple of seasons. So we won't take anything for granted. We've still got a lot of work to do ourselves in terms of building the squad and getting it to where we want it to be. It's a very new group, obviously, and we're still trying to get the messages across to them about how we want to play. And but I think it's really exciting as well. And I think you see the buzz around the place with the amount of fans that have snapped up the tickets for the European games. I think there's an excitement among the supporters as well, which is really important.
Just on the cup competitions, whenever I've been speaking to the new signings, when I've asked them about the conversations that they've had with you, that seems to be something that they mention quite a lot. So is that something that you're putting a bit of an emphasis on this season?
Yeah, and I don't think we've done ourselves any justice last year in the domestic cups. We had some difficult fixtures within it, but I don't think we went far enough in either the Scottish or the League Cup. And I think clubs like ourselves have proven in the past that if the draw can be kind to you, and if you can get a bit of confidence in the competition, then you can go far. Obviously, United, done that, not so many years ago. At my previous club at St Mirren, we done it in 2013. There's Aberdeen last year, winning the Scottish Cup, beating Celtic in the final. So, the league is, slightly different. I don't think there's a team outside of the Celtic and Rangers that have won the league in the last 40 years. So we know how difficult that's going to be, and we're not naive enough to think that we're going to be up there competing with those two for the league title. But you have to believe that you're capable of winning a cup, or at least getting to Hampden and having a day out, with the supporters. And as I said, once you get there, anything can happen. Aberdeen proved that last year. They would have been huge underdogs going into the final, but tactically Jimmy Teelan got things right, and then they get a bit of luck in the penalty kicks, and they win the Scottish Cup. So it's I think it's important to have that ambition, and it's important to dare to dream sometimes as well.
Just on the immediate future, if we look at last week's friendly against Arbroath, it was a wee bit of a non-event because of the conditions, but I imagine you'll get a lot more out of the game against Pex Volla tomorrow. The teams we've faced so far, we've enjoyed quite a lot of possession and trying to work on those patterns of play, but this will be a good test of the team's shape out of possession, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's how we tried to structure the pre-season. We knew we'd have too much for Brecon. It was a good game, it was a good test to get the legs going again for the players. Everybody got 45 minutes. Against Arbroath, I thought first half, actually, when we had the wind at our backs, it was really, it was a decent exercise, and we got some, good patterns of play. But playing into the wind in the second half, this time of year, you don't expect to be facing those types of conditions. We know how windy it can get at Arbroath in the winter, but we certainly weren't anticipating that. And it did, the second half did become a bit farcical, where you've got defenders kicking the ball as hard as they can to try and clear their lines, and it's basically coming back to where they initially struck it from. So, that does kind of make it a bit of a non-event, to be honest, and we didn't get what we wanted out of the exercise at all on a fitness front or in terms of patterns of play. So this week we play FC's Volla, really, decent team. The Dutch teams all play a certain way that they're going to test you in terms of your defensive shape. So that'll be something that we probably haven't faced a great deal in the last couple of fixtures. And when we do get possession of the ball, we want to try and implement the stuff that we've been working on in training. But this will be a much stiffer opposition, and it'll be a very good test for the players, and it'll give us all a really good indication of where we're at this moment in time.
Jim, cheers for your time.
Thanks, Janice.